Good evening. It's a pleasure knowing that you're watching The Insight on Equinox Television. We are broadcasting live from Douala, Cameroon, Equinox Central News Desk. Today, the 1st of October 2017. What is the significance of this day? This special day in the history of Cameroon, in which former Southern Cameroon had their independence on the 1st of October 1961. Tonight, my guest is a historian. With him, we shall be looking at the significance of this day, and we shall be looking at the recent crisis in the two English-speaking regions of the country and see if history can bring the situation back to normalcy. This and more will be yours. Join my guest and I in the next few minutes. I'm welcoming a historian tonight, Gilbert. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Fo. It's a pleasure being here and to talk of specific, critical, and very important things that have to do with this nation and which people have ignored from the past, and it's having an impact that, if care is not taken, may play very seriously into the core of the unity of this country. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
From the opening statement, it shows that you have much to say as far as this program is concerned. 1961, October 1st. As a historian, what is the importance or the significance of this day in the history of Cameroon today?
Well, when you say 1961 and then you say the importance of this day, there are two things there. The first thing is the 1961 itself, which is a year, a symbolic year in the history of Cameroon generally, and a symbolic year in the history of Southern Cameroon as a United Nations Trust territory. Now, when it comes to a day, I want to think of a specific one. February 11th, on a Saturday, 1961, when the Southern Cameroonians all went to the polls to decide their political future by either achieving independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon, which was former French Cameroon, ascended to independence on January 1st, 1960, or to gain independence by joining the Federation of Nigeria, gained independence 1st October 1960. These are the two things that I believe you are grouping them into one. Mm-hmm. That year happens to be a symbolic one, which unfortunately political leaders of this period in Cameroon, both Southern Cameroon and French Cameroon, had forgotten. I want to use the word forgotten because there is no reason why such important dates in the history of a people, in the history of a territory, should be relegated, so much so that some other days that do not actually have an impact in the lives of a people are glorified against the days when people turn a leaf, a new page in their lives.
So which one came first? Because today many persons are confused. Some are saying October 1 is the day of reunification.
Well, when people say October 1 is the day of reunification, they are correct. October 1 is the day of independence, they are correct, because unfortunately, permit me use the word unfortunately, several options came up in Southern Cameroon as to what concerns their political future. The options were these: independence, cessation from Nigeria, and reunification with French Cameroon. Cessation from Nigeria and integration back as an autonomous state within the Nigerian Federation. And then the third option that came up from May 1960, that was defended by the Cameroon United Party of Paul Moyongomo Kale, PM Kale, was secession without reunification. That means an autonomous and independent Southern Cameroon.
But that one was not taken into consideration.
I will tell you why. It was not taken into consideration because the three options went to the United Nations plebiscite conference of 1960, and to be very clear on that, the United Nations would have adopted the third option, which by that May 1960 was very popular. In fact, more popular in Southern Cameroon than any other one that had been from 1964. But for the fact that the British who were the mandatory power in southern Cameroon, did not want to allow a territory that's independent and, according to them, economically not sufficient, not enough to stand by its own, and will come back to ask for economic aid now, had to connive with the United Nations to wipe out the third option, which was most popular in the territory at that time. In fact, when PM Kale came up with the KUP, which wanted Southern Cameroon to be on its own, political parties were created immediately to that effect to give it support. I cite them: the CIP, the Cameroon Independent Party of Chief Jesco Manga William from Victoria, and then we have the CCP, the Cameroon Commoners Party of Chief Nienti from Mamfe, that were created immediately to give him support.
What about the One Cameroon?
Well, One Cameroon is a surrogate party of the UPC that was created after Ndele's government banked the UPC in southern Cameroon after the 1957 July elections. So that party, as we know it, had always stand for unilateral reunification without any conditions. So UPC philosophy had always been that Cameroon should be one, a bundle. UPC has never seen why Cameroon should have British Cameroon, French Cameroon, or UPC has never danced to the tune of European arbitrary division of Cameroon. That's the stance of UPC, and I glorify them for that. Then when we come back to the year 1961 and the events that preceded, like we are talking the UN Congress, in the UN Plebiscite Conference in 1960, they realized that Britain particularly, Britain bears this blame more even than the United Nations, because Britain, a veto power in the United Nations, Britain, a leading power in the United Nations, stood a better position to decide, and the other powers were confirmed into it. So Francha had in his head, Ndele had in his head, whether to achieve independence for Southern Cameroon while joining Nigeria, as Ndele advocated, as an autonomous state within Nigeria. That was Abubakar Tafawa Balewa was asked in the United Nations, and he stated that if Southern Cameroon gains independence by joining the Federation of Nigeria, they are going to constitute a state like the others and be treated as a state like the others, be governed as a state like the others. They will vote their personalities, they will vote their representatives like the others. When Aijo was asked the same question in the plenary of the General Assembly of the United Nations, he said, this is part of Cameroon, which if they vote to reunify it with the Republic of Cameroon, they are going to create a federation of equal status with the Republic of Cameroon. I repeat, with equal status with the Republic of Cameroon. Sometimes it puzzles why things had to turn the way they had been from when that reunification started.
So Aijo gave his words that the two Cameroons, when they will join, they are going to be equal status, despite the numerical advantage of the former East Cameroon.
No, we do not. Numerical advantage here has nothing to do with this. It has no role to play here. Reason being that whether Southern Cameroon was as far less than the Republic of Cameroon in population, the most important thing here is that it was a territory. It was a territory. Not all countries in the world have the same population. We should acknowledge this. This issue of Francophone majority and Anglophone minority has no role to play in what we have at hand in this country now. The issue is that Southern Cameroon was a people, a territory, a United Nations Trust territory, just like French Cameroon, transformed in 1946 to be from a League of Nations Mandate B territory to a United Nations Trust territory. That is it. And we take it that way. When we want to go into the polemics of considering the population here, that is the reason why Cameroon is what it is today. Because some people feel that as they are more in number, they should suppress. But that's not what Article 1668 of the United Nations previewed. Okay. No.
Now, so when Aijo gave the assurance to the United Nations that the two countries will be the same, despite their coming together, we saw the Constitutional Conference in Fumban in 1961. He matched words with actions. But can we say that after 1961, the marriage was convenience between the two countries.
I want to correct an impression. Let me correct an impression there that when you say he marched words into action, no, I don't agree. History does not agree with that.
Because the 1961 conference, constitutional conference took place in Fumban.
There was a conference in Fumban, that's clear, but to say he marched words with action is where history disagrees. NGIMNDOH here is not the one disagreeing. It is the history of Cameroon that is disagreeing.
So what is the history saying?
Beautiful. Listen, there's one thing I must make it clear before we get into the polemics of Fumban. History does not forgive, and the justice in history has no appeal. The things, there are historical facts and there is historical truth. What happened in Fumban is that before even Fumban, let's not forget that Southern Cameroon political parties and political institutions met in Bamenda from June 26 to June 28 to prepare themselves in what was called the Bamenda All-Party Conference, to prepare themselves for the eventual come-up in the Bamenda and the Fumban Constitutional Conference. There, political parties, the ruling KNDP by Foncha, the opposition CPNC under NLA, who was conspicuously absent. Then we have the OK of the Ntumazah present with his subordinate. We have institutions, we have British representatives like B.G. Smith and Clarkson, who happened to be the Secretary General of that conference. When they left there, they produced what were called the Bamenda Proposals, or a draft constitution with which they went to the Fumban conference to meet with the Francophone delegation, so that with their own draft constitution, they can now come up with a federal constitution to govern the two states that were to come together on equal status. On equal status. I may want to remind that before the Fumban conference, Ahidjo and Foncha had met 2 times in Buea, 2 times in Konsamba and 2 times in Yaoundé. And in one of their Konsamba meetings, they had come out with a loose document that was called the United Cameroon Federal Constitution. This United Cameroon Federal Constitution guaranteed the position of the 2 states and gave opportunity for each of the states to quit the union in case the union becomes unworkable.
Is it documented?
It was the 2 of them came up with this document, and unfortunately, this is what is very important. Ahidjo made it possible that the United Nations never visit or endorse this document. Britain, which was the trusteeship power of Southern Cameroon, never visit or never endorse this document. The document finished in between Ahidjo and Foncha themselves for no other reason but greed. For no other reason but greed.
Greed on the part of who?
On the part of Foncha, because there was these 2 people were acting not on the same force. Not on the same force because Ahidjo was already the president of an independent country with institutions. Foncha was still the leader of a trust territory of the United Nations, still seeking to be independent. Therefore, he had to be more offensive than Ahidjo. He had to be more offensive by making sure that this document, which was so much cherished by Southern Cameroonians, should be endorsed by Great Britain, should be endorsed by the United Nations. I know, I do not feel, I know, it is clear, historically clear that when this document was visited or endorsed by the United Nations and the United Kingdom, therefore, the status quo would have remained the same and untampered with. In 1962, Ahidjo would not have come up with a rule in Parliament of subversion, whereby he had sweeping powers to declare. And West Cameroon, that had a flamboyant democratic system, political debates were free. Political parties were free. They enjoyed democracy just like in the Anglo-Saxonization of politics. But what happened? From 1962, they were pushed to become observers in the political scene. They were pushed to sit and see what happened. They were pushed to believe that somebody is above and somebody is below. They were pushed to believe that for a country to be united, somebody has to be a king and his legs are on the heads of others by the subversion laws of 1962. That is the origin. These are the steps through which we got ourselves to where we are.
Are you saying that there was no legal document binding the coming together of the 2 states?
There was this legal document, unfortunately, was produced in Fumban on the 21st, on Saturday, 21st of July, 1961. On that morning, when resolutions were read in French, and I must stress that to the misunderstanding of majority, if not 90, more than 90% of the Southern Cameroon delegation, 25 of them, who were in Fumban, made up of political party leaders, the traditional authorities, and others, 25 of them in number, against 12 from the Republic of Cameroon. Let this be clear. Most of them did not know French, and the final document read to them was in French. On the opening day, in the morning of Monday 17, when Ahidjo gave his opening speech, Foncha gave his opening speech, the two of them sounded on the same philosophy. How nice is it to meet with our brothers again? We are going to experiment our union by creating a federal union, which is a federal state. Endele had this to say, I quote him, "What we are about to do today concerns the future of a people, and the haste with which we are getting into may not lead us to a satisfactory future. Care has to be taken." This is what Endele declared there. That means that what Endele was saying far more than the two people who claimed to be the leaders of both parties. Because Foncha was hastily, with some sort of enthusiasm, which was imagined as from a personality of his status quo at that moment, when he was representing a territory, a people, representing them to build a future without limit, and hastily getting into such agreements, hastily getting into such arrangements was doubtful. Ahidjo, on his own part, was showing a lot of doubts in what he was treating, and who carefully kept the conference suspended with a lot of animation. In 2011, I watched Madame NGIMNDOH Alice, who in 2011 was already in her 77th year. When she spoke, I had the impression that what I have read is correct, because she said that she was one of the hostesses carefully hired by Ahidjo to sleep with Foncha, to keep Foncha comfortable. She was one, and she showed pictures of how she kept Foncha comfortable. These are things that Cameroonians should know. These are things that we should be aware of, and things that should help us know that the leaders, those who represented us in one time in our history, did not take full responsibility. You cannot imagine that a constitutional conference of that level will hold in Fumban, and then after opening speeches on the 17th, Monday 17th, July 1961, the conference continues in animation until resolutions are read in the morning of Saturday 21st, or Friday 21st, I beg your pardon, of Friday 27th, to the embarrassment of all those who participated, even on the side of the Republic of Cameroon.
So Ahidjo double-cross Foncha?
He did not only double-cross, but he made sure that he dominated on them. And what was read on that particular Friday 21st was Ahidjo's will. In fact, it was simply an adapted constitution of the Republic of Cameroon to accommodate Southern Cameroon, to their wish or not.
So Gilbert NGIMNDOH, can we say today that what the United Nations Secretary General, through his spokesman, that Cameroon should go back to the root, the root of this problem? Can we say today that the UN is referring to what you have just explained?
Yeah, the UN surely, with the pressure that is coming up from Southern Cameroonians, both in the diaspora and from home, one thing that has been very plaguing and pushing us to this nature is that Southern Cameroon intellectuals who are supposed to be projecting the facts, unfortunately, majority of them who have political positions are trying to distort the facts. They have decided to distort the facts intentionally, in either to maintain their political positions or to seek for new ones. But I am happy that the United Nations made certain things clear. Return to the roots. That statement was very important.
So it's pregnant with meaning?
Yes, that statement is pregnant with meaning. Pregnant with meaning knows that it means that the United Nations is already clear on the fact that these people have something. Their history is full of wounds. It's full of incurable wounds. It's full of wounds that no effort has been made to cure the wounds. And it poses sometimes that Cameroon, that is one of the most educated countries in sub-Saharan Africa, refuses to recognize a genuine problem of that level for its unity to be pursued. The United Nations spokesman, SG spokesman, reiterating that let there be genuine and inclusive dialogue between the Cameroon government and the communities of the Northwest and Southwest, come into table, dialogue out and the problem should be resolved, making from reference from the roots. This is very important. That is the most important statement I read from that communique. It means that if dialogue has to be genuine, dialogue has to be inclusive, dialogue has to be sincere, if there has to be corporate credibility in that dialogue from both parts, then the roots of the problem has to be tabled. The roots of the problem, because when they are tabled, it is from there that the wounds of Southern Cameroon will be revealed, will be exposed, and appropriate cure will be allocated.
Okay, let's now see what happened today in the two English-speaking regions of the country. 1st of October. It is a rare 1st of October that we've seen people out commemorating the 1st of October. It is usually very difficult to see even a camera outside or even a telephone outside every 1st of October, but today was a very quite different day. We take you to the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon. We go back to the machines and see what happened this day. October 1 commemoration in the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon was timid in the early hours, with Mutengene taking the lead around 7 a.m. The youths were determined to march to Boya, Independence Square. Few hours after, report from Kumbo in Bui Division in the northwest announced a fire incident at the Kumbo Central Prison. The prison burst into flames, leaving several prisoners in a helpless state. As confusion set in, few prisoners attempted to escape. At least 3 persons were neutralized, according to reports. Locals say the fire ignited from several tear gas used to disperse the population. Another version says it was a criminal act. As the Kumbo Central Prison was visited by fire, the march past to commemorate October 1 gathered steam.
We are heading to the first palace of New. We are going back to give him the authority that was seized today. Our Independence Day, which was given to us.
The people of Bamenda started converging on major spots to march to the first palace in Mankong. 2 persons were shot. They were rushed to the St. Mary Hospital. The two regions after midday woke up from bed, defying administrative orders and marching on major streets to celebrate freedom.
Finally, the Lord has done it. Finally. Guti celebration is direction. The youth from Guti. Finally, the Lord has done it.
Those in Bonadikumbu, Folimbe, Tole, Mutengene, Moyoka walked to Boya for the event. A bluff bat is said to have taken place there. In Great Sopro Boya, where several persons are reported to have been shot, as army used live bullets, invaded homes, and carried out massive arrests. In Fiango Kumba, in Meme Division of the southwest region of Cameroon, gunshots were heard. Arrests was at the center of attraction. A 12-year-old child is said to have been shot by a stray bullet while at home. In Babanki, northwest region of Cameroon, hundreds gathered at the Fons Palace to commemorate October 1.
This is Babanki Tungo. We are right in the palace. We are close to the flag.
EQUINOXE television cannot independently confirm the number of casualties in Sunday's protests in the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon. Unconfirmed reports, however, put it at dozens of persons who were shot. A general atmosphere of what happened. Now Mimi Mefo takes us to Tombel subdivision in the southwest region of Cameroon to show us what happened. It should be noted that a Lego department in Tombel is said to have been set ablaze after protesters were dispersed with tear gas. Mimi?
Sunday morning on October 1 in Tombel, Kupe Maninkuba Division, some residents remained indoors as prescribed by administrative authorities in the southwest region. Some were in church, praying for peace and unity in the country, while the street was at the same time inundated by youths who came out for protests. With the main road blocked and guarded by gendarmerie officials, the protesters succeeded to force their way into the village square. They were marching with peace plans, denouncing violence, and calling for the release of all the detainees of the Anglophone crisis. To many, it is the outcome of failure to engage in meaningful dialogue.
They are fighting something which is clean and clear for everybody. But what is killing our president is that his ministers, they are not giving me exactly problem. At least the president should come back and anywhere is, even anywhere in America or in Canada, they should call the English people and they call the chief of FACO conference. Pobia will sit down and dialogue with the United Nations people.
As the number of protesters increased, security was also reinforced. As if the message of the protesters was heeded too, the demonstration was peaceful till the time when they stormed the Thorns Palace. The police used tear gas to disperse the people, who proceeded to set the legal department ablaze. At least half a dozen of persons were reportedly shot by security forces. It took several hours for the men in uniform to suppress the protest demonstrations.
Like we said in the report, we cannot independently confirm the number of persons who were shot, as well as the number of persons who died in today's protests across the two English-speaking regions of the country. Equinox Television is still on the ground with reporters to give you details on that. Now, before we meet the Minister for Communication, who will be giving the stance of the government as far as the Anglophone crisis is concerned, Gilbert Gimdo, you watched the two reports there. Did you expect that the people would defy administrative orders to stay at home?
Well, the steam and the enthusiasm with which people came out on the 22nd of September made today no doubt to any Cameroonian. In fact, it was supposed to be a message. We can't doubt the fact that on the 22nd people defied administrative orders, which I personally do not see that violence should be taken as a measure to solve a problem. Violence and brutality are weapons of the weak. I repeat, violence and brutality are weapons of the weak. We do not have to use violence in everything. But I am so appreciative of the initiative, of the measures and the comportment of Southern Cameroonians or of Anglophone Cameroonians. I will say this because today people are now moving on the streets that je ne suis pas francophone, je ne suis pas anglophone. It sounds funny to the ears to hear to any reasonable Cameroonian because we have always been Anglophones and Francophone Cameroonians. The simple truth we should adopt is that let us glorify our diversity and build the foundation of our diversity on social justice. And some playing around, some kind of child's play around there. I wonder what is doing that. As to what concerns the reactions or the manifestations of today, the only thing I would condemn there is the violence that some people who might have not understood the message that this part of the country wants to show. It was a message that we have told you we are feeling bad. We have told you we are feeling bad. Times without number, severally. You are not ready to hear. How then are you our leaders? This is our anger. We want to peacefully march to tell you, not only you, but the whole world. But you always know that there are some bad seeds that will penetrate to cause havoc so that they turn the goodwill of the people. They turn the genuine, embittered nature of the people into something not longer desirable. That is where the problem is. But as to the manifestations, it is something that has always been waited for. Since and since and since. The authorities of this nation were waiting for that. That is why today, you see the CPDM marching in Douala. I was so embarrassed to see that within days, a declaration is written, and the minister of the country sends a copy of the intended march of the CPDM to the governor of a region. He copies him. That means he is informing him. The governor, who is supposed to give an accord who is supposed to accredit such movement is informed. I begin to question what kind of governments these sub-Saharan African countries have, honestly, because I don't see a situation where the administrator of a region is informed that there will be a march in June. And that same, meanwhile,
because it's coming from the Minister of Justice.
That is, it has no base here in a country that claims to be that of law and that of democracy like Cameroon. It makes no sense, Mr. Afo. Let's be realistic here. What kind of Minister of Justice are we talking about? Minister of, I'm happy you say Minister of Justice. Where is the justice? He is the first person who is supposed to be legally correct in the way things are done. But listen to the way, just look at the way he does it. He copies the governor that the CPDM intends to march in the littoral region. Tomorrow we risk having problems from the SDF because I read a communique written by Honorable Michel Nietzsche, who is planning and who is threatening that if that march succeeds, then the SDF is organizing one in the days ahead. I watched and I have read the communicate myself. I was so curious because I was wondering that in March, when tension was so high, the SDF applied to educate people with a peaceful march. It was refused on the context that it risks perturbating public authority, public security. But what are we talking today? Within days, it has been applied. The authorities of the littoral have been informed. Not that they were, this thing was they were informed and it went through.
Yes, to balance opposing views. We had the Minister for Communication. That was 24 hours before today's program. That is why we are still within the context of the crisis rocking the two English-speaking regions of the country. But before we launch that, to note that President Paul Biya today on his official Facebook page condemned violence on both sides and said that it is good to express your dissatisfaction on an issue, but that dialogue should be the only solution. Let's now have the interview I conducted yesterday with the Minister of Communication, Issa Chiroma Bakari. Good day and thanks for joining in this special edition of the news. We're receiving the Minister for Communication, Issa Chiroma Bakari, who is touring media houses in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. Mr. Minister, good day.
My pleasure.
The pleasure is ours receiving you.
I'm very much delighted to be here, to be welcomed, warmly welcomed by you. It is a privilege and a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, you're visiting media houses within the context of the Anglophone crisis, what has been termed today as the Anglophone crisis. Minister for Communication, member of government, is there an Anglophone problem today?
No. There is no Anglophone problem in this nation. Please, you have a handful of people who have decided to blackmail, to take hostage the two regions, and consequently the 10 regions in our nation. There is no Anglophone problem as such. Each region has its own problem. There is no doubt about it. When the lawyers, the teachers, raised the problems that they were confronted with and for which solutions have not been found, they were received, they were welcomed. The head of state gave the instruction to all of those who in one way or other were in charge of the area to receive them, listen, focus the mind on the problem raised by them and to find the right solution. And the problem raised by lawyers and teacher unionists, most of those problems have found solution. But we were expecting the end of the problems when the secessionists came up with their claim, their demand. They were nothing short than independence.
But maybe secessionists took the advantage that in the month of January, you alongside other government ministers stood up and said there was no Anglophone problem. This angered most persons who watch you. Today, can we say that the continuous process of the strike action in schools, they are not yet effective? It is because of what you said in the month of January. Can we be blamed today for what is ongoing?
No, not at all. I said a while ago that in January, when in my office, I presided over a press conference attended by ministers. In my mind, I thought that infrastructural problems were at stake. We say that the problem of road, building hospital, school, so forth and so on, are common problem all over the nation.
But before January, you had bad lawyers who had stood up to talk about the translation of the OHADA law in the month of October.
Can you allow me to continue, please?
And in the month of November, teachers had sent a communique 1 month, even before November 21. We are aware of that.
We have to be very much disciplined in this dialogue.
We are all disciplined.
When you raise an issue, you allow me in my capacity as the member of the government and spokesperson, you have to give me the opportunity to answer your question.
I'm just recalling, Mr. Minister.
I say that at the beginning, I was wrong in my assessment of this situation. When the problem of translation in both languages, any document coming from any administration, and this being not the case, I say yes, they are right. If Anglophone problems should be identified by those problems, there is no doubt, there is no problem. If there is problem and those problems have to be addressed and they have to be settled. And this is what the government is doing.
But today the strike continues. Which means the efforts put by the government are not enough?
No. You are analyzing, assessing the situation through misleading prism angle.
No, we have been on the ground, Mr. Minister.
Let me
have not been effective. I'm talking based on statistics.
Let me continue. I said that you are wrong in your assessment of this situation. Let me tell you the reason why. When the government, in compliance with the agreement signed by the government and the representative of lawyers and teachers, when it was implemented, when those who were caught red-handed, put in jail, being court-martialed, all of those in one way or other, when the head of state deemed it necessary to get them released, 55 of them were released, the situation died down. The school had resumed.
Not effective.
Please, the school has resumed. Economic activity has resumed. Day-to-day life of Cameroonians in those areas have resumed. But the secessionists, when they realize that their aura, their charisma was dying down, dwindling, when their mot de passe could no longer be heard and implemented by others, they resorted to violence. The reason why, you are a parent.
Are you saying that on the 22nd of September, almost the whole of Northwest and Southwest regions who came out as secessionists? Because most of them were released man through BBC. The perception of the order from the head of state public to release everybody was not well taken and communicated by those involved.
Not at all. Please, refrain from amalgamation. The Anglophone are victims of this situation. You have a handful of people settled abroad who are dictating what is taking place under threat, because people have been taken hostages. Without threat, this situation would have disappeared completely out of our radar. We are convinced. They are threatening, they call MPs. This is, you cannot deny this. They call MPs, member of the parliament. If you don't resign, we are going to kill you or kill member of your family.
You have proof that they called them?
Yes. Most of them, at least one or two, they say that, well, one day, huge gathering, huge crowd straight there to their house, found them with their family, and said that if you don't resign, you are going to face the consequences. And they were obliged to resign. So, under threat, it is possible to get what you want. But freely, it is impossible.
Now, what happened with the other detainees, Anglophone detainees who are still in jail? The head of state, through the Secretary General, the President of the Republic, signed a release calling for the total release of everybody. What happened? Can you explain to Cameroonians and the families who are watching you now?
There was a criterion according to which whoever do not have or does not have blood in the hand, those who have blood in their hands, caught red-handed, violation, burning, killing, destroying, profaning. I am member of the government. I'm giving you the explanation.
So it should have been clearly written out.
Take this communique. Take this communique. Take it. Read it. Your reading is libelous. Is biased. Is biased.
No, Cameroonians are
not right.
No.
Please. This debate is very much serious.
It's a serious debate, Mr.
Yes,
Minister.
we are talking
so
about
it's
the life
because,
of people.
Because people want their detained brothers and sisters to be out.
You see, you have some of them who are being tried. They are being court-martialed. The separation of power between executive and legislative, executive and judiciary, this separation does not allow the head of state to interfere when matters are already enrolled, when matters are being prosecuted, when matters are being court-martialed. When it is ended, the head of state is vested with power to amnesty. No matter what your crime, the head of state is empowered by our constitution to free, to liberate, no matter how tough, no matter how bad
now
the crime you have committed.
Yes.
The head of state has the power to liberate you,
yes,
if he deems it necessary to do it.
Now,
all of those who today are in jail, for sure, because they are being prosecuted, they are being court-martialed. Wait until it is over, and we are going to see what the head of state is going to do. I'm not authorized to tell you this is what is taking place. I'm here to enlighten you. I'm here to let you know that our brothers and sisters in the two regions are the victim. They are victims. They became the scapegoat by the secessionists. The 8 other regions in the nation are in solidarity, give full and unshakable and unwavering support to our brothers and sisters of the two regions. Let us never amalgamate. What the secessionists want is to say that no Anglophone, this is not Anglophone problem. This is, today we have a problem with secessionists, handful of people, and they are going to be defeated.
The United Nations Secretary General, through the spokesman, signed a release calling on the government and the two communities to look into the root cause of this problem. To you today, what do you consider as the root cause of this problem? Are we going back to 1961?
The problem, you see, the head of state and all of us here as a citizen, we are a repository of a legacy handed over to us by the founding father of this nation. We have to be very vigilant, very mindful, not to profane the legacy handed over to us by the founding father. In the process, as we are moving forward, in case there is a problem, no problem, it is possible always to look at it. What is wrong? How to handle? How to address it?
So today we can still look at the form of the state?
The form of
after the failure of the decentralization process since 1996?
Yes. No. Please don't ask the nation to jump into the unknown without a security net. The Cameroonian, they know what they want. where they are going to, despite the fact that it is far from being perfect. I agree with you. What the government is doing is far from being perfect. But we say that day in, day out, those problems are going to be settled. They are going to find the right solution. I have no doubt whatsoever. But I keep always saying the same thing: avoid amalgamation. The second aspect I would like to mention, all of us here, we are custodians of our common willingness to live together. Please, please, be the custodian, be the guardian of our common willingness to live together, the protection of our common, the physical integrity of our nation.
Okay, as Communication Minister, are you aware that Barrister Akeremuna wrote to the United Nations talking of a genocide in the making? He cited some journalists at Vision Cat who have been using hate speeches to talk of how they should arrest Anglophones. Are you aware of the situation?
It is wrong. It is wrong. On behalf of the government, I strongly condemn whoever speak in such a way. Whoever. It is wrong. This is whoever. If ever it has taken place, we have to condemn it. We have to denounce it. We have to reject it. You agree with me? Same message is circulating in the internet. You have to drive out of our region all francophone. All francophones should be taken away. We must reject it. I can see it in the internet. And the message is the one of the secessionists. We have to condemn and we have to blame them for that. And if a Cameroonian speaks in such a way, he is condemnable. We reject it in the government. We denounce it. It has to be made clear.
Okay. Any special message before we go? To the public, the Anglophones who are watching you, tomorrow, will they make hay while the sun shines?
We are a great nation. We are a marvelous nation. We are a marvelous people. The protection of this nation is of our paramount importance. Our willingness to live together, to move together, to build this nation is sacred. We have to protect it. On behalf of the government, I say that all of us, we are Anglophone today, because Anglophone, they are the first victim of this situation. Burning school, killing people, profaning our symbols, burning flag. It is wrong. We must never ever accept it. We have to condemn it. We have to fight it. But we must remain united. Cameroon is one of the privileged nations on earth for having the two official languages, French and English. We have to protect and promote it. As far as our brothers and sisters Anglophone are concerned, I would like to mention what I have already noticed, which is taking place. The next generation, the generation of my kids, for sure my grandkids, there will be more English-speaking people than French English-speaking people. Tomorrow there will be no longer a language or culture problem. So please, please, don't allow irresponsible people to call for secession through threat. It is wrong. As a journalist, you have the responsibility. You have to protect this nation. This is our responsibility. The reason why I came here. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you. And whenever need be, I am always ready to come and discuss with you. This crisis is moving to an end because the government has already taken all measures. Secession will never take place, and you agree with me, violence should stop. I agree, and you agree with me, and dialogue must continue. Dialogue must be the only framework, the only possibility that all problems, no matter how complex and tough they are, the only possibility to address them is through dialogue.
And the military too should stop shooting.
The military has never shot in any. How can you say this?
Many people have been reported dead. We have confirmed.
Where? On September 22 in the northwest, in Kumbo and in Mamfi. Before we leave, Mr. Minister.
Please. The situation is already very complex. Don't put oil in the fire in order to increase the complexity of this problem.
Understand.
To deal with it, it is not easy. But if you stand in this way, you will make it more complex than it is today. We are a great and big nation. Let us remain united today, tomorrow, and forever and ever.
That was the Minister for Communication, who is making his first appearance in the Inside. Now, Gilbert, NGIMNDOH, you watched the Minister, you could watch the revendication. As a historian, we have a few minutes together. What could be the solution after listening to the key actors talk?
Yeah, I must say that when I watch the Minister, who happens to be government spokesman, there are a lot of things I deduce from what he says. Not only we all condemn violence, brutality, and other forms that may keep human life at risk. We also condemn a secessionist. I particularly can never, I repeat, can never, because there is what is in every Cameroonian, be him from the north, the south, the west, or the east, be him Anglophone, Francophone, or whatever tribe. There is what I listened to Professor Zengwa of the University of Yaoundé once said, there is a Cameroonianness in everybody, that gem of Cameroonianness in everybody. But I must say here that from the Minister, the Honorable Minister's speech, I sent one, arrogance, I sent misrepresentation, and I sent misinterpretation. And I sent dishonesty to realize things that are factual and real. I sent all of this. And this is a characteristic that runs through the blood of all authorities in Cameroon, and that is why the country is what it is going through today. This crisis, whether we like it or not, there is that gym in the north that has transferred the whole of the extreme north into an inhabitable zone. You need to go there and see how human beings live. The extreme north is the most populated, the most populous region in Cameroon. But get there and see how human beings are living. Let me deviate a bit from the Anglophone zone to tell us that somebody must sense that I am talking on the point of Anglophones, but get to the ground or you're going to see things for yourself. But what puzzles me is that this gem of dishonesty runs in the blood of those who feel they are representing them. And that's why I use the word misrepresentation. In the mind of the minister and all those political elite, there is something wrong in this Cameroon. Politicians are seizing, are monopolizing, and are forcing themselves in front of pertinent issues that concern human lives that are supposed to be adequately addressed. And they pass their time issuing orders up and down when the orders are very inadequate as to the solutions that are to resolve, to dilute, and to quench down the anger that is boiling in the hands, in the minds, and in the hearts of the various groups in Cameroon. It is clear he has his right to say that there is no Anglophone problem. I say he has his right because he's a government minister and he is defending a public intention. But an honest government must know that in every country there are groups that may be a minority. I must tell you that in Canada, the region of Quebec in Canada is a lone Francophone region in Canada. There is a movement that is there that is called the sovereignty movement. They are allowed to go right up to elections. In 1995, for example, they were given a referendum and they were defeated by just by 0.5%. If not, Canada would have been two countries today. they were given the right to express their. Look at the case of Catalonia in Spain. Look at the case of Monaco in France. Look at the situation that divided Southern Sudan. The situation of Southern Sudan led to hundreds of thousands of deaths simply because we are in sub-Saharan Africa, where human life is nothing to any
So what
person.
is the situation? What is the solution now? We have just 1 minute.
The solution now is what, as of now, there is a crisis of confidence. A crisis of confidence because nobody in Cameroon within the spheres of this triangle has that credibility to sit in for it. We need a third person. A third party has to come in, bring the side of the government, because we cannot say Francophone Cameroon. It is not a crisis between a Francophone and Anglophone. No. It is a crisis from Anglophone culture. I regret to say, you permit me say it in seconds, that the minister is wrong. Let me say this. There is nobody who is more Cameroonian than the other. The minister is wrong to say that in the years ahead, there will be more Anglophones. That is where he is capital wrong, because the Anglophone and Francophone is a matter of culture. It's not a matter of language. It's not because he speaks English that makes him Francophone. That makes him Anglophone. Anglophones is somebody who has his roots from former West Cameroon. And that makes him Anglophone. So we need a third party. Besides, we need that there shouldn't be any complex of superiority or inferiority. We do not need a dialogue where some people will need as superiors and some people as inferior. So the discussion should be
a round table like this
bilateral, and everybody must be frank.
Like what Ayapola Bine says.
And most importantly, nothing should be considered a taboo in that table, because all Cameroonians have the right to voice, as so long as they are contributing to the well-being of this country that belongs to all of us.
All right. Thank you very much, Gilbert NGIMNDOH. You are a historian. That is why we invited you today on this historical date on the Inside.
I'm grateful to be here, and it was my pleasure to actually bring out what I feel bubbles in me concerning the impending problems in our country, which I feel contributing at any level, when called up, to the glory of this nation. Thank you.
It was equally a pleasure being with you this day's edition of the program, The Insight on Equinox Television. If you did enjoy the program, take our rendezvous there for next week, Sunday, 6:30 p.m. on Equinox Television. We go beyond borders.